This episode has been brought to you from the DGMS Studios, home of Don't Get Me Started, Lethal and Mully Live, and Surftown. Found at Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Hello and welcome to Don't Get Me Started. It's the mother of all podcasts with Keith and Lee. Hi, I'm Lee.
And I'm Keith.
I just want to start up with an apology to Keith because we had set up the podcast ready to go and I did what Keith has been accused of multiple times of not pressing the record button. So this is our second attempt at our first podcast. My apologies, Mully.
That's accepted, man. I know what it's like. I always have trouble with putting things together that are simple and are logical. So why does this button do that? And why does this cord go into there? How does this work? So sometimes I've been accused, some people have said to me, how do you get through the day? I've actually set off to go somewhere and I'm headed off in the wrong direction.
I've been there. I've been in the car with you. I know.
It's like...
I get lost multiple times. My wife goes, how have you got around anywhere? But when I went to Venice, it said it's the town that you can get lost in, I knew my way around.
Well, Venice is quite small. I mean, you can work your way around a corner and eventually come back to a landmark.
Somewhere.
If you don't fall in the canals or get elbowed by the tourists. I mean, the time I was there, I was like, dude, can you please move out of the way?
I know. I loved it, though. I really did. St. Mark's Square, quite exceptional. We're in our new studio, Mully. I want to thank you for giving us a hand. We've changed it around. It's much more palatable for us. I did it with your help yesterday, so a big thank you. And we also done it because where we had the setup before, it was too closed in. And Keith did mention a few times that there's a tight space. You had to move through when we had guests in. And we were always concerned that they'd trip over or they would fall over, which would be even worse. So we've changed it around. Much better, Keith.
Yeah, much better, much more open and functional and more welcoming. I think that when our guests do come, and we do love having them, they'll just go, wow. And immediately it sort of sends out a message, sit, the microphone is there, let's talk, let's podcast. Really fit for purpose.
Now, you know, our top podcasts, 3 of them, are when they were Noosa Now, where we had guests in. Why do you think that is?
Maybe people are sick and tired of listening to us.
I agree. I do, but thank you for all that come in. Thank you for all our Noosa Now guests. And we would love to be bringing Noosa Now back, which I hope we will do. We have a few guests lined up for the next month or so. But what makes it interesting for us is that we love the dynamic that they bring. It takes them 5 minutes, doesn't it? It takes them 5 minutes to settle in. I remember, because we have to do a little sound check, and I said, okay, can you hear? He goes, yeah, I can hear you, but I can only hear you in one ear. And I said, that's because your other ear's turned back to front.
Yeah, it had the pad on the wrong side. We won't mention his name, will we?
No, but he's a nice guy. And the thing that it's so impressive for them is that they come in, they're really nervous. I don't think I've got a lot to say. And I said, of course you have. And they sit down after 5 minutes, they relax, and then they fit in. And it's such a great experience. And that's why I built the studio initially for us and also for the guests to come in. So it's an experience that they walk through the door and, as you say, they go, wow. And it's a journey for us that hopefully won't stop. And I hope that their experience will stay with them.
Well, a lot of podcasters, Lee, do so they can put across a point of view. They have a position and they want to state that firmly and emphatically. Now, we don't podcast because we want to comment on the situation or current affairs or current politics or the geopolitical situation in the world. We just simply want to talk about a subject that we think about. So we are kind of guys that are in the middle, if you like. We're general. We don't have agendas. So if somebody comes into studio, even if we know that they're completely different to us on different points of view, we don't care. We're not here to trap them. We're not after, aha, I got you moment.
Yeah.
We don't play that game.
No.
You know, we want people to come here. It's all about just having a chat, talking about whatever we choose, or with them it's a conversation. If they're our guests, then of course it's about them.
Noosa Now is made up, as the intro says, it's a fabric of who Noosa is. It's what makes Noosa, from baristas to builders and so on. And we had Sandy Bolton, the MP, independent MP, in, and it was incredible interview because she didn't come across as an MP. She came across as a nice, warm, down-to-earth human being. And she did say initially, I've got 40 minutes, guys, let's go. And so we went through it. We got through it. Fantastic. I got up. I'm thinking, ready to go because 40 minutes is done and dusted. And Sandy just sat there. And I thought, okay. So we sat down and we chatted again for another 15 minutes. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was. And for our international listeners who may not know what an MP stands for, that means Member of Parliament. So we had a prominent parliamentarian politician come into our studio, which we were chuffed about, really, that she would give her time. And, of course, I think her saying, I've only got 40 minutes was indicating that, she's got the door open to get out if she feels that it's not going anywhere. But the fact that she stayed, I think, can be a little compliment to us.
That was it.
In fact, I think we could have even chatted further.
You just don't know, so you've got to stick by the rules. Our rules were we give 6 questions, 3 each, and they sprout off into different other questions, and you could go on and on and on. And I remember having your beautiful daughter on, Johanna Wallace. I had so many questions I wanted to ask her because I love to produce and direct inside. I love watching the movies. So I did throw in a couple of, like you said before, curly ones.
Now, I have a question for you, Lee.
Oh, no.
If there's anybody, not just around Noosa, but further afield in Australia or even internationally, that you would like to come in here as a guest so that we could have that conversation with them, who would you like?
Oh, mate, there's many. I can't just pinpoint one. On another day, I could give you 5 or 10 even who I'd love to get in. Who we nearly did get in was via you from Surftown, where we had the bass player, or not we, you could have got the bass player from NXS, who was...
Kirk Pengilly. Well, I wouldn't say nearly, but I went looking for him, and I had a very close contact that would have possibly given me a very warm reception with Kirk.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I would be like a little child because I not grew up on NXS, but they were always one of my favourite groups. And my children remember NXS when I was taking them to school. We'd be playing Suicide Blind. They still remember it now. That's the impact. And so sad when that happened, Michael Hutchison. I was in Sydney at that time, and I actually went to the hotel where it happened. And there was just a moment there that I thought, wow, it's over.
Well, it very definitely is over. Well, these guys that hit the pinnacle of their musical career that brings international fame, they live in a different universe. I would have loved to have interviewed him because I'm fascinated with musicians. I don't know how you watch them on a piano or on a saxophone where they have to hit the keys, or on a guitar. Their fingers on both hands are moving in different directions, touching different string chords. And some of them can do it so quickly and crisp and perfect. How do they do that? Is this some sort of magical, otherworldly language that their body can do? I would love to sit down and interview a very competent musician and say, what do you hear in your head not only when you're playing, but when you're not playing?
Well, it's an interesting point. Now, I watched a little doco in the last 24 hours of Prince.
Oh.
Very interesting. There's stuff I didn't know about him, but both his parents were musicians. So they were very competent musicians. And I was thinking, wow, what do I get from my parents? And I'm thinking, I'm going to ask Mully the same question. Like, what have you got from your parents? Now, from my parents, I think I've got a little bit of DIY from my father, and from my mother, it's just survival. So with Prince, like, what an artist. I was watching it last night, and obviously it took me way back to the beginning. So what have your parents instilled in you, Mully?
Good question, and you put me on the spot a little bit.
Well, good.
My mother instilled in me a love of reading. That's where that came from. My mother used to say, if you have a book, you're never lonely. And I kind of never forgotten that. And I think I've been reading continually ever since I was 16. I can't remember a time when I've not had a page to turn to read. From my father was a very simple man. He could not read or write. He had a very simple approach to life, and that was basically just be true to yourself, which is always terrific advice for every single person.
If anybody out there knows a musician that would love to come in, please send us an email to don'tgetmestarted2024@gmail.com. we would love to have a musician on that will bring us some music.
Yes, and also to answer some questions. Like, I'm fascinated with Paul McCartney. Now, he cannot read music, but he can sit down at a piano and play it. He can play a bass guitar and he can play a 6-string lead guitar, and he hears tunes. And where does that come from? Now, those guys, when you think about it, like a lot of professional musicians, they hit fame quite early in life, often, in their late teens or early 20s. And they're competent musicians even by that stage. Some of them have had training, some of them have not. Now, how does that get inside a person?
I don't know, mate, but you're wearing a Led Zeppelin T-shirt, and before that you wore a Rolling Stone, so you're just an old rocker, mate, like I said.
Well, I met somebody the other day. You'd be surprised how many young people love the music from the 70s.
I know, it's incredible.
So if I had Paul McCartney in here, I'd say to him, well, where did it all start? Did you actually start hearing music? Did you see it? How did that translate from out of your head? You would have had to have written down notes. Well, you couldn't read music. You'd have had, how did you get the tune out of your head into reality?
So let's hope somebody comes up with a great name. We can ask the questions. So my wife has gone away to Vipassana again, Keith.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think it's her 9th time now. And she struggles every time she goes because she knows she has to sit in silence.
That's what this place is. Can you explain it a little bit more, please?
But it's a meditation centre, which is in Pomona. And you can go for 10 days.
And you do what?
And you meditate.
That's right. So you sit in silence.
So you sit in silence. So you can't talk to anybody else. You make no eye contact with anybody else. Basically, no phones, no reading materials, no music. You meditate for up to 8 hours a day for 10 days. And as we've said before, I couldn't do it. As I've also said before, I have my Vipassana here. So I am with myself, and I'm very happy to be that person. It's taken me time. So I thought to you, and we were talking yesterday, and the topic that came up for today is silence golden?
Good topic.
It suggests that sometimes not speaking can be more valuable than speaking, particularly when it comes to avoiding unnecessary conflict or allowing for a deeper reflection.
Yes. Well, interesting that you should say that, because I was in a situation only last week where I was amongst people who I was not really familiar with. It was their turf, it's their domain, where I was invited in as a guest. And the time that I was there to find the information that I needed was very brief. And a couple of these guys turned around and looked at me as if to say, well, what are you doing here? But I had somebody who, if you like, had a higher status than them that conducted the whole affair that brought me in. Now, when I put my question to these two guys as to why I was there, I felt compelled, after I'd put forward my question, I felt compelled to explain to them exactly why I was there. And that was not necessary. I could have just said, well, I'm here because, and then just left it. In leaving it, I would have let a silence come there. And they could have filled in that silence their way, their interpretation. By me revealing why I was there, I could have revealed too much of myself.
Well, you don't want to be doing that, Malik.
Because sometimes
you got in trouble last time for that, remember?
You better cut that one out. Because sometimes in a communication scenario, what you don't say, if you use silence, can be a form of communication so that the other person or the other people can form their own opinion that may be a good one about you.
So it's a proverb. Silence is golden. The origin, it says, speech is silver, silence is golden.
Isn't that gorgeous?
It's an ancient proverb thought to have originated in Arabic culture as early as the 9th century.
I was going to have a guess and say Persian.
Persian, yeah. Yeah, well, it's pretty good.
Arabic. Are they known for not talking? I thought they were great chatters.
Don't know, mate. Well, speech is silver, silence is golden. The proverb implies that both speaking and silence are valuable. But silence is often more valuable, especially when it comes to avoiding unnecessary conflict or allowing for a deeper reflection, which I get in my silence now. I do get a deeper reflection on who I am, where I am, how I conduct myself. Who am I to my children? Who am I to my wife? Who am I to my friends? I don't have a problem being in silence. The flip side to that is when I open up, and then I can't control that, because then, like I said, that gets you into conflict, which shouldn't happen. I should know better.
So silence can be used in conversation to infer things, which is what I was hinting at earlier. so people can fill that silence their own way, or it can be used, as you are suggesting, to spend time reflecting on inner things for yourself.
Yeah, and it gives me time to think of where and what situation silence is golden. So one I've already said is avoiding conflict. One is allowing for reflection, like I've also just said, but building trust. Building trust in relationships, silence can be a sign of comfort and understanding, fostering a sense of trust and connection, which again is another thing. You have to have that. It's like we were talking about the art of conversation. It's crucial to have that conversation. Enhancing focus. Silence can improve concentration and focus, allowing for better performance in work or study. Now that happens with me because I've worked a lot on my own. So it does improve because you haven't got distractions. I don't have radios blasting in the background. It freaks me out when I go into some houses and they've got a TV on, or they've got a radio and a TV on. It's unsettling for them. I hope that you're enjoying the podcasts and the content that we're bringing to you each week. I want to take a moment to invite you to support the show. Your contributions help us continue creating high-quality episodes, bringing in exciting guests and exploring the topics you love. Every bit helps, whether it's a small donation or signing up for our Patreon account. By supporting us, you're not just helping keeping the lights on, you're becoming part of our community and helping us grow. To show our appreciation, we offer exclusive perks, behind-the-scenes content, and so much more for our supporters. So if you love what we do and you want to see us thrive, please consider signing up at buzzsprout.com/don't get me started. Support the show. Thank you for being part of our journey, and let's keep the conversation going.
For some people, the first thing they do in the morning after checking out Facebook, which apparently most of the human race does, go over to the remote and turn the television on.
Yeah.
And it's on all day. And it's that crazy need to fill silence with noise. And of course, the word for it is white noise. But why are we as humans in such a hurry to fill silence with noise?
Because we're chased down. We're chased down all the time. This is the thing. So when you get demands from people or you have to be there at a certain time, you just don't take that 5 minutes. And when people go, oh, if only you'd have left 5 minutes later, or if only you left 5 minutes earlier, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. But you can take time to be still. It's your choice.
I think for some people, silence is scary because they're left with themselves. I know a couple of people who live with demons, with bad thoughts. And the worst thing for them is the end of the day, the evening when everybody is shut down, when the house is shut down and it's time to go to bed. They can't do it because the moment they go to bed, it's silent and the memories of their past comes flooding in. One of these particular people that I'm thinking about studies and studies and studies and studies, is always doing studies. And this particular person passes out at the study desk and wake up in the morning. And then, of course, the noise of the day comes back in. So a lot of people find silence can be very scary because of past memories related to trauma. Other people find it scary because they're not really happy with themselves, Lee. Because if you have silence, you are only there with yourself and you only hear yourself. And if you don't like yourself or think that you're not somebody who has something interesting to say, all the noise coming in from television and radios can come in and help your head to have some interesting things in there because you haven't been able to generate it by yourself.
I agree. I think it's the whole point what you just said. You've got to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else? It's a process. It has to go in. I've never asked you this. You know my stance on being alone and love the silence. I also like the darkness as well. It soothes my savage soul. What about you, Mel? I've never asked you. How good are you to be on your own in silence?
Fine.
You're okay with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't bring up anything, which it does bring up stuff.
It doesn't. I don't have demons or trauma that I live with. So, I've seen that firsthand with people that I've been very closely associated with. I don't have those sort of memories that I have to wrestle with when everything is still. But everybody has things that come to them during that period when they're silent and they're still. I find that now to be quite refreshing because I'd like to focus on a few things without distraction. But what I have noticed is this, that as I've matured and become more comfortable in accepting myself, I've become more comfortable with silence. I don't need it. I don't listen to music as much as what I used to. I don't watch television unless it's football as much as what I used to. I don't feel compelled to even read my book. Well, most of the time I do. It's like I can't wait to get there. I'm much more comfortable. I'm very comfortable with silence. But if I have to be in a situation where I'm still for maybe 2 hours, where the day is rolling along and I haven't really wanted to be in a silent period of contemplation, maybe I'm waiting for somebody, I'm not real good with that. It's like, oh, can I read a book? Can I listen? Can I open up my phone? Those times can be really testing.
I can only lay on the beach maybe 45 minutes. Then I can't take it anymore and I have to leave. But I can sit in a room where it's dimly lit and there's nothing going on and I could be there for hours. I think I totally switch off and enter into that inner mindset that we have. I often wonder if Gemma hadn't have started to go into Vipassana, whether I would be the person I am now. Because once you're thrust in to that where you're alone, where you have a partner there all the time. We've been married nearly 40 years. But when she did go, it was pretty bizarre, my thought patterns. But I embraced that. And so I often wonder if I would be the person I am now if she hadn't have gone. I love it when she goes, not because I can't wait to see the back of her, because I love her dearly. But I have my time. Like I said, I have the Vipassana time. And I cherish that. And when my wife was here and I'd come in and do some stuff, she'd go, oh, this room's so dark. Open up the blind. I said, no. No, you're going to interrupt my time. Now, there's other situations, not only when silence is golden, where it's not golden. So when speaking is necessary, when it's time, it's important to speak up with an injustice or something or somebody needs to be heard. That's the other part of it. You have to embrace that as well, knowing the difference of it. When information's needed, that somebody needs to know something, and obviously when somebody's in danger, you have to speak up.
Yes, you do.
Otherwise, you're doing them an injustice, not only yourself, but them as well. It's an interesting concept that makes it so beautiful. I find a beauty in it. I don't have to take drugs. I don't have to use alcohol. I can switch off. Is it a trained thing? I don't think it is. I think it's a learnt behaviour. You're
saying you find beauty in the silence when you want to go into a period of no noise.
Yeah.
And is it a trained thing? I think my understanding of it is it's a maturing. You're comfortable with yourself and you like what you're hearing in your head. You like yourself. And because you like yourself, you don't feel the need to bring all those other things in to try and make you feel like that you're having a full life. Because, we're kind of propelled to have a full life, to bring this experience in, to have done that, to listen to this, have seen that or whatever. If you strip all those things away, then silence can be golden because you're with yourself and you can invest in your own focus.
There are a couple of things that I read, and the one I've got here, it says why silent people are strong. Quiet achievers are often someone who possesses a strong sense of self-motivation and do not depend on external factors to drive them, like we were just saying, where people wanted to be there, and you've got to be here, you've got to be there. And they have the ability to propel themselves towards their goals, helps them to maintain unwavering focus and determination, even in times of hardship. Now, I've experienced that as well, because we all go through that hardship side of it. I think that's a true fact.
Yeah, I like that. I think everything that you read out there was really good and true.
And the other difference for me is what men do, whether silence is golden or men go quiet or they go silent. Again, this is another one here. It's clear that the silence can be a complex signal woven from a variety of emotional and psychological threads, from dealing with personal issues, contemplating aspects of the relationship, feeling overwhelmed by external stresses, and to simply needing time alone.
Oh, look, this is really interesting. Say there's 4 people in a conversation, 5 people, and all of a sudden one of them goes quiet. Now, just drawing from what you've just said into that scenario where the one person suddenly goes quiet. Why? If you sit and observe, there are clues. Maybe it was because of the content of the conversation, the topic that came up that's triggered something internally within them. Maybe it's because there's body language going on. Maybe it's because the dynamics of who is speaking is unacceptable to that person. I remember being in a meeting. God, one of the worst things about being a school teacher, you have to attend these so-called useless professional development meetings. But what happens is you go to these professional development meetings and some semi-expert up there who justifies their position behind a desk because they're not teaching anymore, they can't handle it, so they get these useless bloody jobs. And they bring up a topic that we have to sit there and listen to. Now, there used to be in this particular school that I worked in this one teacher who always had to speak up, always. So if there was 20 people in the room and there was, say, 20 comments from the floor where the 20 teachers were listening to the so-called expert, she would have contributed 18. The rest of us would sit there in silence. Now, why would we sit there in silence? Most of us wanted to bloody throttle her. Can you please shut the F up?
Read the room.
Yeah, reading the room. And sometimes to read the room, you've got to be silent, withdraw yourself from the conversation, observe what's going on, the dynamics between the people, and isn't that, I actually quite enjoy doing that. Of course, you could say, oh, well, you're judging people. Well, so what? We all do it in that context.
This is life.
I'm not going to say, oh, that's a bad person, although that particular woman just wouldn't shut up. God. She was a pain in the ass, I tell you, man.
Now, I remember talking to you yesterday or the day before. I think this is where it came about, the Silence is Golden. I read an article about a company. Actually, it's called Allfield Laboratories, Inc. It's in Minneapolis, America. It's broken the Guinness Book of Records for constructing the world's quietest room.
Really?
Now, remember me saying to you, I read an article about people that can't go into this room. They freak out. So the longest anybody can bear is 45 minutes.
Really?
The longest anyone can bear, Earth's quietest place, is 45 minutes.
That's amazing. Why such a short period of time? I would imagine people who were used to silence could clock up hours.
Well, now I want to go there. I want to test myself. Now, a few people have said you can even hear when you blink. It's that quiet. It's -9 decibels.
Wow.
This room. They welcome visitors, Mully. They have corporate events and retreats. It will cost you anywhere between $200 and $400. You up for it?
Yeah, I'm in. I'd love to do it.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
Yeah, absolutely, to hear myself blink.
To go there.
So if some other bodily noise came out, a belch or something from down the bottom, imagine it'd be like a thunder.
Check it out online. It's very interesting to read people's remarks about it and their experiences. It's quiet and it's dark.
Oh, it's dark.
It's dark. Quiet and dark.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's intimidating.
Well, there's my two things. Like, I'm really okay with that. So one verse says here, it says, your ears adapt really quick to it. The quieter the room, the more things you hear. And they're also saying that you hallucinate.
Wow.
Sign me up.
I wonder what you see.
45 minutes.
Would the hallucinations be relating to your life's experience, like what's subliminally within you in the deep subconscious?
Who knows? Go and find out.
Excellent. Free drugs. Free trips.
Yeah, I didn't really look at it that way. But Allfield Laboratories in Minneapolis.
Allfield.
ORFIELD. And it's held the Guinness Book of Records for the construction of the world's quietest room. Check it out online, mate.
That's an unusual word, Allfield. Maybe that's the person's name who invented it.
1970. Apparently it was opened.
And it's been going for 55 years and it's driven 55 million people crazy.
Absolutely. 45 minutes, mate. Could you beat 45 minutes? Challenge.
I would try to.
But how incredible. Just think about it. It says here, 45, the longest time a person could bear 45 minutes. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. Whether I've got the information incorrect, I don't know. But look it up online.
I will. The Allfield, what's the full title?
Allfield Laboratories, Inc.
Inc.
Yeah.
Incorporated. So they're making money out of people's craziness.
Mate, it is. And they do it with corporate events and retreats. So, mate, if I ever go to Minneapolis, I'm going to go there. I'm going to have to check that out.
Well, if I was ever back in that excruciating so-called professional development meeting and that overbearing woman was there.
You'll be locking yourself in that room, mate.
Yeah, no, I'd send her in there. Off you go. This will do you good. Get in there and be quiet.
Well, they got a picture of the room. and the room's just got like acoustic panels in
Queensland. And they had a program where if any of the kids misbehaved in class, it was deemed that that behaviour meant that that child, that student had removed themselves from that classroom. The teacher hadn't sent them out, but their behaviour meant that they had removed themselves from that learning environment. And they had to go to a room which was a silent room. Now, in this room, they could not take a textbook, any book, pens, paper, of course, no digital devices, and they had to sit there in silence.
Vipassana.
And the walls were brightly coloured, and it had posters up on the wall. Today is the first day of the rest of your life, and you are what you think, all these positive reinforcing things. And the kids would stay there until they decided they wanted to go back in the class. Now, when they decided they wanted to go back in the class, they would negotiate that with the particular teacher whose class they removed themselves from, and that teacher might say, yes, I'm ready to have you back if you behave, or no, you have to go back to that room. The kids hated this room, hated it. And I remember one kid was misbehaving, so I said, look, so-and-so, you have removed yourself. You have to leave the classroom. He fell on his knees, and he was a little brat of a behaved kid, and he just fell on his knees and he begged me, don't send me there, don't send. Dude, I said, I'm not sending you there. That was your decision by your behaviour. And he was off. And anyway, he came back to me the next day and he said, can I come back into the class? And I'd had enough of him. He was so disruptive. I said, no, you can't. So I kept him up there for 3 days. The parents are all informed in this. It's done in conjunction with the principal. It's a school policy. It's all done very, very well. Why most schools don't have it, I do not know, because some schools are afraid that this is damaging to the child's psychology. It's going to hamper their learning in some ways.
It's a naughty corner.
It's beyond that. It's an adjusting corner because the kids have to go there with no stimulation.
Now, many, many, many years ago, I used to help out with the children's group, and they were aged from, I think, 12 to 15 maybe. And we used to take them out, we used to go ice skating or go-kart riding, but we used to get on the coach and you'd always know the ones that would play up. And I wasn't into shouting or chastising. That's just not who I am. So I would pick them up and say, okay, you're going to go sit down here. And I'd always put them with the quietest on the bus. And their whole attitude, not the quiet one, but the loud one, would tone down like somebody had just switched him off. It was incredible to see. And it worked every time.
So silence really is golden. Then.
Silence is golden, Mully. And I'm going to go silent now because I'm going to leave you the last word.
While we were thinking about this, I brought up the lyrics for Simon and Garfunkel's classic song, Silence is Golden. And some of the points made in that song are what we have touched on here. So I recommend everybody go check it out, read the lyrics. It's absolutely fantastic. And Lee, the last word is wonderful because I can say thanks. It's great to be here with you. And thanks again to all our listeners who tune in regularly to us. And as always, I do ask that you like, share and subscribe. So until next time, it's hooroo from me.